Morning, folks. Hope everybody's doing well this morning. It's a Sunday morning, so I decided to do another shaving stick video. This one here is Palmolive. This is the box that it came in. Bought this one here a while back. Man, I bought several of these a while back when the price was cheaper. Now the price has gone up, and oh my, I see them $6.50 a piece and on up. It's prices are all over the map. So anyway, I got this when it was somewhat cheaper. But if you missed out on those days, yeah, you're probably not going to see anything. How you see what I would consider reasonable. You're going to have to pay a wee bit just to get it nowadays. And this is what it looks like. It comes with the aluminum foil that covers the entire stick, but I cut some of it off and got a little cap down there. You can kind of see it was enclosed in aluminum foil. It used to be pretty inexpensive. Now, not so much. Going to follow the shave up with British Stirling, and you can see since it's got that chrome on the front, it's reflective and not the easiest sometimes to see that. Yeah, that's British Stirling if you're not familiar with what it looks like. Per the website, it puts it in a category of woody, spicy, Fougère. I've got all that stuff, down below. You can read it. My nose cannot pick out in other words, just single out a scent or a base note or anything quite like that. It's, how can you say, well blended. Not, my nose is not sophisticated enough to be able to do something like that. Blade of the day, still going to be, since they sent the Astra blades with this particular shaver, going to continue on with using these blades. This particular packet is a old stock, and it came single wrapper there, plain. Old stock meaning that the newer stock, when it comes to the ink on the blade, I guess you might say it's just the outline of the letters as opposed to the ink being solid all the way through the lettering, and that's about the only way I can tell the difference in between the old stock, new stock, or maybe they just change things up just to see if it sells better. Who knows? At any rate, already put a hot towel to the face this morning, and I'm going to be using the Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Christmas Preshave cube. This is the brush of choice today. I've had it soaking. This is a horsehair knot. I got a link down below for this, and it's been soaking, and here pretty soon after I get done with the pre-shave, I'll squeeze most of that water out, and we'll see how it works with loading the brush with the with this soap. See if I get as lucky as I did yesterday. Different kind of knot. Yesterday's knot was a boar knot. Today it's horsehair, and we'll see how it works. I know that Arco, when it gets a little bit wet, at least the stick that I have, the soap got pretty soft, so it was easy to load up the brush. But that was also a boar brush, which the natural bristles are stiffer than what they are in a horsehair. And sometimes you might see somebody, especially if they've been around a moment, at least that's where I've been able to find the wording of calling a horsehair not a poor man's badger. Typically, a horsehair knot in a brush is a little bit cheaper than going with a badger. The hair's a little bit more finer. And depending on the website and the amount of information that they'll provide for you with a horsehair knot, tell you what percent is coming from the mane and how much is coming from the tail. And that might give you some kind of idea on how soft or prickly, if you will, the knot is. For me, I don't find them prickly one way or the other. I don't squeeze, squeezing most of that water out. It's easier to add the water than it is to, with this sort of method, than adding the product from the stick. I'm also going to give it a moment to get down in the brush. Then I'm going to wet my face and work this pre-shave soap in. Typically I would apply the soap to the face, but with the pre-shave soap, Not too sure how successful I would be, so I'm working with this method in hopes that I get enough soap in the brush. Like I say, if you haven't seen one of my previous videos, yeah, I'm pretty terrible at this. I'm not real good. I kind of suck at it. So you might see some things to do or not to do. It's however you want to look at this. I think I've got a little bit of soap on there. If nothing else, I'll just go back to the stick partway through the shave, and that way I have enough lather. But the goal is to have enough to do 3 passes with my iKon Slant. You can kind of see how it's twisted right there. The blade is visible. It's not near as pronounced maybe as some of the other shavers. I like this. This is iKon, I think, has got a pretty good idea of offering up their heads and handles separate if you want to purchase them that way. That way you can purchase all the heads you want with only one handle. It's not necessary that you buy a handle every time. And I don't know if the sale is still the same way. They were offering some of these heads at $25 a piece, and the handle was separate, and it was on sale also. I don't recall right off the top of my head how much that the handle was. Or you could buy a razor, in other words, the complete setup, and then buy your heads after that. Because I think the complete setup for a head and a like this one here, like a slant head, and then the handle, I think all that setup was in the neighborhood $35, I think it was, which is not too terribly bad. I mean, if you're looking on a smaller budget, trying to keep it within a budget like that, it seemed to be pretty reasonable in my opinion. The handles, this one here is a satin handle. To me, it works well because the heads are, I think most of the heads, if not all of them, at least in this price range, are satin. I don't remember chrome ones, but they do have a handle that is chrome. For this, I don't know. The satin ones look good to me. I don't have very many satin looking ones, but this one here looks good. I appreciate this one here. Otherwise, you know, typically I would go with something bright and shiny. Got a little bit of water trying to squeeze out there. Seems like it's always easy to come up with the first pass with plenty of lather, and then come up with the second pass. Usually I don't do too bad. Third pass, do I have enough lather? That's when it gets kind of questionable sometimes. Just depends. I think this Preshave soap is helping me out somewhat of having enough lather for the third pass. If you're unfamiliar with Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Preshave cubes, that is one of the things that they mention is that they're the lather booster that's in the cube. So that could be where this is helping me out. Before, if I remember right, I can't remember if I was using Preshave oil or not, or maybe nothing at all. I can't remember. It's been a while since I tried face lathering. Still seems like I need just a little bit more water. Still seems just a bit thick. That is one thing, getting the lather like I normally would, like I would bowl lather. Face lathering, I have yet to do that. I don't find horsehair pokey, prickly. Some people do. I don't. I think it has something to do with my skin, though. My skin has seen a lot of sun, so it may have toughened up over the years, as opposed to maybe somebody that doesn't see a whole lot of sun. At least on my face it is. Alright, I think I'm just going to leave this like it is. Hope that I've got enough in there. It does seem kind of questionable. We'll find out. Like I say, I can always go back to the stick if I need some more soap. And if you're wondering about this slant, is it aggressive? I would not put it in the category of aggressive. It's a very smooth shaver. There's not a lot of blade feel to it. So if you get the iKon Tech and you feel like maybe that's a little bit too much blade feel, I would definitely go with the head, the slant head. I don't think that there's near as much blade feel. Seems to be pretty smooth to me. Now, is it as efficient as some of the other slants? I think that's probably going to be a toss-up in what you prefer, how it works for you. But for me, just using Palmolive stick soap, in other words, my routine I got right now, it's pretty darn smooth. I would consider this closer to a Gillette Tech as it goes for how does it feel on the face. But that's just, my experience. Your mileage may vary, you know how it goes. But this, matter of fact, the first head that I ever bought was the Slant, and it's always been a good performer for me. As it goes for efficiency, for me, what I'm feeling already is I could, if I would change up my second pass, I could do just 2 passes. I've got that part right through there, of course, I normally do. Got a little bit through here. Like I said, if I change up my routine, I could, I could definitely make it with 2 passes and be done with the shave. I normally don't do this part, but I kind of feel like I'm going to have to get enough lather for the second pass. Who knows what I'm going to come up with on the third, huh? It has been said that with horsehair, it has a tendency to get tangled up and you have to comb them out. And of course, when you do that, you'll have to be kind of careful. If you're using a comb, you want to use it is mentioned using the end that's where the teeth are far further apart than the fine end of it. I don't have quite that issue, but maybe that's because I don't use like a horsehair brush, 7 days a week. If I was using it 7 days a week, maybe I'd have that problem. But since I'm rotating my brushes in and out like I do, maybe that has a lot to do with the reason why I don't have an issue with them getting tangled up. Like I said, this is a very smooth shave. This would come closer to feeling like a Gillette Tech, if you're familiar with that, or maybe a Razor Rock Tech or something else along those lines. A very smooth, easygoing shaver. Probably not a bad one to start out with, especially if you're face lathering. In other words, if the scrubbing starts to irritate your skin when you're, trying to lather up, you don't have to worry near as much as about the blade. The rest of the shave, being kind of irritating to the skin. I don't feel that way with this shaver. It is really smooth. All right, we're getting ready for pass number 3. See if I can squeeze enough lather out of this. I have to say, with my experience, my bore brush seemed to work a little bit better for me. I think it was easier for me to find the right combination of how much water to squeeze out, how much to add in, soap and all that sort of thing. I think I need to do a few more shaves with the Palmolive and a horsehair brush to get it dialed in a bit better than what I did with the Arco. Was pretty easy to do with a bore brush, and maybe that's probably what I should have done with this one. Bore brush is the bore knot is what I started out with when I first started shaving. So a good lot, number of my brushes were bore brushes. So I was more familiar with the bore brush than I am with the horsehair. Horsehair was second, and I guess you might say, in my purchases when I first started out. But I've always noticed that as it goes for water retention, soap retention, and all that sort of thing, that the bore knots and the horsehair knots are different. they perform a lot different in that aspect. But once you get used to them, I prefer, these over Badgers, in other words. This here, wow. It still feels like it needs more water. As it goes for lathering soap, Benulé soap, I'm trying to sneeze here. These horsehair brushes do a really good job. In other words, that's a good pairing right there. In a way, this is a little bit fun. I prefer to do it in the bowl so that way I can see the lather mature and the consistency, and I can get it where I like it. All right, that's not too bad. This is about typical for my normal shave when I'm bowl lathering. The lather's not too thick. It's not too thin. Water consistency in the product is pretty close. If you kind of see, in other words, it does come, it washes off pretty easy. It's not dripping, but I see enough water in the lather that it's meeting, I guess you might say, my criteria of where I like to have my lather. Now, if you get a hold of some soap that gets dried out, it's going to take just a bit more water to get it to where you want it. Then, I guess you might say that a fresh soap, one that's not dried out. So, I'm not sure how old this particular stick is. So it may have lost some of its water. And maybe that's the reason why it's taking more water than what my Arco did. Maybe my Arco stick was newer. Face feels pretty good though. Another pretty good shave. In other words, I was kind of concerned because I don't do so well face lathering that sometimes I wonder with a particular shaver, am I going to get a shave that's, in other words, where my skin don't feel tore up, even though I'm not bleeding or anything like that, but it end up being sore. And sometimes I get shaves like that if I don't get my lather just where I like it. The fluffy, in other words, fluffy lather doesn't work that well for me. Depending on the shaver, if it's very aggressive, or if I'm using a shavette, for instance, something along those lines, fluffy lather does not work well for me. I've tried it, especially early on, and figured out that a very wet, almost drippy, or a drippy lather works well for me. Whether it's a single edge, double edge, or shavette, straight razor, it's just that a wet one works better. I know it's not near as pretty as a big and fluffy, thick, and all that sort of thing, but I learned early on that that lather just doesn't work all that well for me. All right, Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements, alum block, complete with rubber band this morning. Just a little bit under each side right here in here, but I was working it pretty good, trying to make sure I got it. Maybe got the pressure off just a little bit because it does feel very mild. For a slant razor, it is a very smooth one. Might be a little difficult for somebody starting out because they'll want to try to put too much pressure on it because it may not feel like it's actually cutting anything. And it's cutting. Trust me. Just don't get too aggressive with that pressure. Got some witch hazel, which is, guess we're getting down to, if I get to catch the light, getting close to being about the bottom third. It'll run out here eventually. I'll have to figure out what one I'm going to use next. This one here is mentholated, unscented, going to give me a nice cooling effect this morning. Our temperatures are creeping up again. Excuse me. So day being Sunday, we're getting down towards the last part of December, and our temperatures are getting up around 60. So yeah, it's Oklahoma. Times we'll have, temperatures closer to freezing, and then we'll have them up around 60, and sometimes all that in the same week. And there was a point in time a while back that it was pretty funny, because of the wildness and our temperature changes and whatnot. And our first, I guess what they refer to as a thunder snow. In Oklahoma, in other words, we get it all. At some point in time throughout, we'll get all of it. All right. Okay. Availability of British sterling. Typically, especially at one point in time before COVID hit, it'd be kind of hit and miss in Walmart. Be able to walk in, see it, be able to pick it up. Other times you wouldn't see it. English leather would be about the same way. And so in other words, if you're like the rest of the world nowadays, you're buying most of your stuff online. Just hunt for it online. Price-wise, you might get a better deal, especially shipping and whatnot. But I did find the website for the folks that make this particular aftershave, and I put a link down below. They've got some other scents of items there that may or may not interest you, but it did give a lot of information about, for instance, in other words, the scent category that they put this particular aftershave in. It comes with a cologne also, so on and so forth. It did offer quite a bit. I didn't see a listing for the private stock. I have the cologne, in other words, for that one there, but I never did run across the aftershave. But at any rate, it has a glass restrictor. This part here, even though it looks chrome metal looking, it is plastic. I was gripping it just a little bit too tight trying to get this knob off one day, and that's how I got that crack through there. So if you're kind of particular about that sort of thing, I would open up the box and make sure that this isn't cracked. Mine didn't come that way, but I did crack it. That's how I got the private stock at a discount, because it had a cracked, I guess you might say, frame up here. This is what the cap looks like on the inside. I'm kind of particular about this sort of thing. I appreciate a cap that has a post or something going down through the center of the restrictor to help keep everything inside. This one here is not like that. It just got just a quote-unquote flexible top. It's supposed to keep it in. Once again, that is a smooth lid, so I do have a tendency to have a hard time gripping it. And this aftershave does come out a little bit on the green side in the way of color. It may be kind of hard to see on that inside of that cap, but you can see where a little bit had dried over a period of time, and that green color was still there. So you can kind of tell that, in other words, the glass is clear, the aftershave is green, if that matters to anybody. For me, this is not too terribly expensive. I think on the website they were advertising $15. I think in Walmart, I think we're picking it up around $10. Back when I was looking at it in Walmart. It's been a while since I've looked at it in Walmart. Haven't had a need. I've got this particular container. Yeah, what size does it come in? I think it doesn't. If it does, I can't see it, because in other words, it's got the stuff on the print on the back side of that sticker. Can't remember exactly what size this comes in, but I've found it in two different sizes. This one here being the larger one, and I also found a smaller one. It was a set, so in other words, you got the aftershave and the cologne. And it comes in bottles about that tall, including the cap. In other words, quite a bit smaller. Any rate, had a great shave this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay safe, stay healthy. Smooth shaves to you.